Shall we move on to the news, Jesse?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. North and South America, and all the ships and clippers at sea. Let's go to press. Come on.
We got a lot of news this week for some reason. Oh, it's on a loop. It's on a loop. Oh, geez. Help me. Make it stop. Okay. Wait, I'll play it for me now. Here we go. There we go. I got shame. I'm so glad we have this on the soundboard. I think we're going to be using it a lot.
That's amazing.
Okay. First up in news, Riot Games, who you may know mostly for a little game called League of Legends. They had a big hit in the board game world about, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years ago, maybe. I don't know, at least 5 years ago, called Mechs versus Minions. Which was a really fun and interesting cooperative scenario-based game. I liked it a lot. Jesse and I played, I think, about half of it together, right?
We played a few scenarios.
Just a few? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I never got to the end, but I got about 75% through it. And I really enjoyed it. And I think I just, like anything, I just got caught up in other games. This is their first game since Mechs versus Minions. And it is an interesting one. This is mainly a 2-player game. There are rules to play it with 4, but I think this is mainly a 2-player game. And this is sort of what we call in the hobby a bar game. This is a game that you can stick in your pocket. It's literally sort of a small boxed game. And all that's in it is a little blue strip of cloth. And I think about 7 very heavy, nice, beautiful sort of pucks. They're these thick sort of, I would imagine they're ceramic of some sort, and they each have a different symbol. I think if I know my League of Legends lore for the realm of Demacia, I know mostly League of Legends stuff from the card game Runeterra, and I think this sort of is in that world. But this is much like Tak, if you know the Kingkiller Chronicles. This is a fictional game that exists in the world of League of Legends that they have now brought into the real world. Right. So I think a good way to describe this is Skull for 2 players. The company describes it as a competitive game of bluffing and memorization for 2 to 4 players. I'll explain the game to you in about 30 seconds. So you've got, I think, about 6 or 7 or 8 tiles, one of those, I forget. Each one has a different symbol on it, okay? A different symbol, League of Legends-y symbol. The symbols are irrelevant. They're just different symbols to memorize. So on your turn, the game starts with 1 in the center of this blue line, and then on your turn, you pick an action, and your opponent does the action that you pick, which is an interesting thing. You're telling your opponent what to do. They tell you what to do. So I say, add the horse symbol to the left. You always have to add either to the left or the right of the tiles that are already out there. And then on your turn, you have a list of actions you can give me. So one of them, of course, is add. Then one of them is flip. Flip it to its blank side. Okay. Another action is swap to. Another action is challenge. So at a certain point, I can say, I challenge you to tell me what's on the other side of this tile. Because at some point, they're all going to get flipped over and switched around, and it becomes a bit of a shell game. And if you can't answer it when I challenge you to a tile, I get 1 point. First person to 3-point wins. It's a pretty simple game. The game gets interesting, though, with the action boast. So if I boast, I say, I can name all of them perfectly in a row with no mistakes, or not in a row, in any order I want. I can name all of the face down tiles, and I'm saying if I do that, I win. So that becomes the skull thing. Then I can start flipping them over. I have to name what each is. This is the horse one. This is the scales. This is the whatever, the shield, the sword. I have to name them all as I flip them over. If I get one wrong, I lose, and you win. Doesn't matter what the points are.
So this is like legendary memory?
A little bit. But what's interesting, what I think makes it a fun game, is that if I boast, if I take the action of boast and say I can name them all, my opponent then can say, I boast back. And I say, no, I can name them all. So anytime that you say that, you give your opponent a chance to steal the boast. And they have the opportunity of winning. Now, your opponent, on the other hand, can say, I believe you. And say, I believe that you can do it. And then they just give you 1 point. So instead of losing the whole game, it just says, I believe you. You can do them all. You can have a point.
Oh, it's like back.
A little bit. Yeah, exactly. So it's a sort of backgammon, sort of skull. And then anytime your opponent gets a point on your next turn for your action, you can look at up to like 3 of the tiles and sort of get back in the game and remember where everything is. It's a game that probably takes about 10 minutes to play. It literally comes in a little box that can fit in your pocket. It's a beautiful presentation, like Mechs versus Minion was. It's $30, and it is on sale right now on Riot Games website. If you just Google Tellstones, one word, Tellstones, King's Gambit, Tellstones King's Gambit, it'll take you right to their website. I think tellstones.com. $30, they ship it directly to you. I bought one. It's not totally my type of game. Like when I heard memorization game, I was like, meh. But the presentation is so cool, and I think it has a place in my collection as a fun thing to sort of throw in my pocket and play.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the big news of the week. That definitely was like, oh wow, Riot Games has a new game, and like they did with Mechs vs. Minions, they just like drop it on the world out of nowhere. In Kickstarter news this week, the 7th Citadel is hitting Kickstarter. I believe on the 22nd, which will be on Tuesday, the 22nd of September. What is the 7th Citadel? This is the follow-up by Serious Pulp to their hit game, 7th Continent. Now, 7th Continent was a game that I purchased, was a game that I played quite a bit, and was a game that I sold. I loaned it to Jesse for a little bit. Jesse, what did you think of 7th Continent?
Well, I did like it. I didn't get to play as much. I know you needed it back, and because I think we were going to review it, and then we decided not to. I forget why, but I did enjoy it, but saw some problems with it. It was a little fiddly. Was my main issue.
Yeah, I agree. It also, to me, just like it felt like interestingly enough, considering what we just talked about, it felt a little bit like a memorization game. Like a lot, it's one of those sort of escape room type things where you're going on sort of a survival adventure, and I really liked the resource management of it. Like there was a very tight Euro-y resource management to it, sort of card management and action efficiency, and I really dug that. But then, like it was all sort of like trying to solve a mystery, and I didn't find the clues very fair a lot of the time. Like a lot of them were just like red herrings, and it's sort of like, well, I could spend literally like an hour going down this one path in the game only to find out that it was nonsense. And it's like
it is kind of red herrings if you're thinking of that one adventure as its own story, but because it's a campaign, because it is a persistent island that you will still be coming back to and know where things are. That's true. It'll make the next adventure quicker. And to me, it actually, I buy into it because I feel like it's part of, if this was a real thing, if you had to go to an island to remove a curse, and that's kind of what would happen. You would go there and you'd be like, I've been here before, so I remember where this thing was. And I don't know, some of it works for me, actually. That wasn't my problem.
No, I get that. But it was a memorization thing. Like, I guess if I really took it seriously, and like, I think the game comes with a journal, you're supposed to like write things. I just like, it didn't captivate me enough to put that level of energy to it. Anyway, they have a new follow-up, the 7th Citadel. As they describe it, the 7th Citadel will take place in a new, unique, dark fantasy world whose gameplay will be significantly enhanced compared to that of the 7th Continent. You can find out what that means exactly on 10 a.m. Pacific time on September 22nd when it hits Kickstarter. I'm sure there'll be a lot of fancy goodies and stuff, and I'm sure it will cost at least $100, if not more, because it's not a cheap game. Next up, Marco Polo 2, the sequel, the rare Eurogame sequel that gets a numerical sequel, which I always thought was funny. Marco Polo 2 is in beta on BGA. Board Game Arena, which is a very popular web-based way to play board games with friends. They've had Marco Polo on there for a while, and now Marco Polo 2 is in beta, which I'm very excited about because I own Marco Polo 2, and I have never played it because it was released during quarantine. So I'm definitely excited to give it a try. Side note, we have a Game Brain BGA group. If you would like to join it, there is a pinned announcement on our Facebook group, and you can add your username, your BGA username in there, and Alfred will eventually add you to the group. If you don't want to use Facebook, which I completely understand, you also could just email me at contact@gamebrainpod.com with your BGA username, and I will pass it on to Alfred for you. We've seen the first images of Dune Imperium. They released a, not a cryptic image, but just sort of a single shot of the board. We still don't know too much about it. This is a new Dune-based game that is not the normal Dune game. This is Direwolf Digital has the license to it. Well, obviously it's not a digital game. And the art looks nice. A lot of cool wooden pieces, and they're not using photos from the movie. This is based on the new movie, so all the characters are artistic representations of Timothée Chalamet, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm always down for any game that takes place in Dune, and I think if I'm correct, it's a deck building game. It's a deck building and worker placement game, and that's a cool combo. I'm down for that. Are you a Dune guy, Jesse?
I played Dune. Well, you mean like the movie?
Just the IP, the world.
Yes, I seen it once, maybe twice when I was a kid, and I actually haven't seen it recently.
You didn't read the book?
I didn't read the book, and you guys gave it such a rave review, and I
think you would love the book. Yeah,
I know.
I feel like it's a Jesse story for sure.
Yeah, but I played the board game once with you guys, and it was it seemed cool, but it was really frustrating.
I also can't imagine enjoying the board game if I didn't love the IP. I mean, not to say that the board game isn't great, but I think it really relies on your love of the world.
But also, in particular, that game is punishing. I forget exactly what happened, but something kind of just took me out of the game.
Oh, it's old school and brutal for sure.
Yeah. So there was that, but otherwise I thought it was it was an interesting game. So I'm looking forward to checking this one out.
Dune Imperium. I don't think we have a release date yet. I think it's 2020. I don't even know if the movie Dune is 2020 anymore. Nobody knows. Hopefully we'll get it in Christmas, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets pushed. But yeah, Dune Imperium. You can check it out on Direwolf's website. You can see the first image of it, which is not useful on a podcast for me to describe. So go look at it. Wingspan, little game in our hobby, maybe you've heard of it, is now available on Steam. That's right. You can play a digital implementation of Wingspan, not on your phone, not on your iPad or your tablet, but only on Steam at the moment. But it is available for Mac or Windows, which is rare and nice. The game is $20 at the time of recording this. It is on sale, 10% off for $17.99, because Asmodee is doing a huge. I don't know. This isn't an Asmodee game. I don't know, but it's a part of a huge board game sale going on right now. Monster Couch is the developer of it. What else has Monster Couch done? Looks like some games I've never played before. But I bought it. I haven't tried it yet. I can't vouch for it, but I know it was in development for a very long time. This is not just sort of a cheap cash in. I was in their Discord group sort of following along because I was just curious how it was going because it was taking a while. So they took their time, which hopefully means they did it right. But if you want to play Wingspan with friends online and support a publisher in the process, check out Wingspan on Steam, available right now. I also hear that the score is really good for it. Very relaxing. What else? We have a little bit of other news going on. I definitely love Reddit's board game subreddit and read it often. And there was sometimes you'll get a really cool fact, and this was a cool fact that I did not know. This was a TIL, a Today I Learned post on Board Game subreddit. It said, "Today I learned Spiel des Jahres used to have a best solo game category. It was given out only once in 1980 to the Rubik's Cube, and then never again." I think that's amazing. I think they should bring back the best solo game. That would be a thing. But I'm also sort of cool with Rubik's Cube, just like never losing the title.
Drop the mic.
I don't know if I would call that a solo game, but it's a solo activity.
Is it a cooperative game?
No, nor is it competitive. So okay, you win.
Rubik's Cube Legacy.
You played Knifey Spoony before. I see you. Well, this is exciting news for me, Jesse. You were talking a minute ago about how much you love Slay the Spire, and I agree with you. But if there is one indie video game that I love more than Slay the Spire, it is Darkest Dungeon. Jesse, you've played Darkest Dungeon, right?
I have. I really, really love the tone of it. I love a lot about it, and I find I actually get confused in the battles a lot.
Yeah, sure.
Am I crazy for that?
No. It is a game. So what Darkest Dungeon is a roguelike murder simulator. So it's not what it really is a game where you are recruiting people to join a group and send them into a dungeon, and where you will fight in a dungeon, and then those people will inevitably die horrible deaths as they're driven mad, sort of in a H.P. Lovecraft sort of Arkham vibe. And you will lose the people that you spent 20 hours leveling up, and they will die, and you will cry. And then you will eventually realize this is not a game about the people that you are getting used to. This is about the stuff they are bringing back and the money and the loot they are bringing back to the town that you are slowly, to your colony that you are slowly upgrading and improving, so that your next batch of people that you get attached to that go off and die will start out a little stronger and get a little farther. And it is shockingly more complicated than it should be, and is one of those games that I've probably put 100 hours into, and I still learn things about it all the time. And it's like one of those games where I'm like studying like the wiki for it and watching playthroughs, and like I think why I love it is that it gives back as much as you put in, and it is a very complicated game with a lot going on underneath the hood.
I don't mind like depth, but the UI, like some of it is just weird. It's not intuitive, and it's frustrating to do the battles because I literally don't understand certain things or how to access certain things, and if that's not fun, it should be more apparent. I don't remember what the direct issue was, but I keep coming back. I go, man, I really missed that game. We were talking about it a couple weeks ago, and I went back to it, and then I was like, oh, that's why I stopped playing.
Well, it is one of those games that I wouldn't have been able to play without watching some playthroughs, and I definitely watched a lot. I probably watched as much playthrough of Darkest Dungeon as I have played it, and I played it probably over 100 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy named Filthy Robot who does a lot of really great Darkest Dungeon playthroughs. He's very good at it, and I think he has some great tutorials. So those are worth checking out if you want to learn. But why are we talking about it? Because Darkest Dungeon, the board game, has been announced, which is very exciting to me. The publisher that's making it is not super exciting to me, not because they don't make great games, but because they make games that I haven't typically been drawn to. Mythic Games is producing it. They're mostly known for what I would call giant bloated Kickstarters. And I say that without any negativity, because I love some giant bloated Kickstarters. They made Time of Legends, Joan of Arc, which I came very close to pulling the trigger on because it was just ridiculous how much stuff it came with. And I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I've kind of gotten over these Kickstarters where you get 400 boxes delivered to your house, and it's so much and it's so overloaded and there's so much in there, and you just sort of eventually just sell it all rather than learning it, because it's just sort of overwhelming and exhausting, and I don't know, often not worth the effort that it would take to learn the 9,000 expansions that come with these Kickstarter games. But they are doing Darkest Dungeon. It is coming to Kickstarter sometime. I don't know if it's this year. I don't know if it's next year. Board Game Geek has it listed as releasing in 2021. But it's coming to a big publisher. Sam Healy, who left the Dice Tower last year, joined the team at Mythic Games, and I think he's doing development for them there, or I'm not exactly sure his role. But they're a big company and a big name in the board gaming world. They've got a lot of clout, and I'm glad that one of my favorite video games ever is at a place that will hopefully treat it right. And I'm excited to see what they do with it. I mean, it's definitely one of those games you play and you're like, this would be a great board game. The minute I played it, I've been like, I want a board game version of this. I'd like to see what they do to it, because it is definitely a cool world and has some cool mechanics that definitely feel very, very board gamey.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, more info to come on that, but you can subscribe to it on Board Game Geek. It's already listed, Darkest Dungeon, the board game, and you'll get news as it comes through, just like me. Lastly, this is not Game Brain related news, nor is it board game related news, but it is Matt Robinson related news. Little self plug for myself. Trailer for my movie Love and Monsters launched last week. This is a movie that I spent 2 years working on. I was the second writer and the last writer in on it. I love it dearly. I put my heart and soul into it. It will be coming out into your homes on October 16th on any place that you can rent movies, Amazon Prime, all the other ones on demand. I don't know, anywhere on, if you turn your TV on and you can rent a movie, you'll be able to rent Love and Monsters on October 16th and watch the trailer right now. Quick pitch. It is the love story of a boy trapped underground in a bunker after the world has ended, who becomes reunited with his long lost ex-girlfriend over the radio, and he decides to make the perilous journey above ground over monster infested apocalypse wasteland in order to be reunited with his high school love.
That's nice.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So yeah, that's it. I won't be plugging it often, but I'm plugging it now. You can watch the trailer and get hyped for it. Maybe rent it on October 16th if it sounds fun to you.
So no theatrical release, huh?
No. Welcome to COVID.
Yeah,
we were definitely. Wow. This is not the way we planned to do it, but this is the way we're doing it. It's either put it out now or wait. Who knows how long? And God bless them. I understand that even a major studio like Paramount needs to make some money, and so hopefully they do.
Yeah.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.